Good afternoon. Joining us on the line now is Chris Tarrant, one of the UK's best-loved TV and radio broadcasters. He presented children's TV show Tis Was from 74 to 81 and game show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire from 98 to 2014. He was also the Capital Radio breakfast show host from, for 16 years, I think it was now. His memoir, It's Not a Proper Job, shares some great stories from 50 years in television. And a bit of background, about a month or so ago, we had a chat with the lovely Tony Nicholson about his new book, Great British TV Quiz Shows. And Chris wrote the foreword to the book, and we were able to put a question to him, which he kindly answered for us. So it's my great pleasure to welcome the man himself to Talk Radio Europe. How are you, Chris?
Hi, Hannah. I'm good. Good afternoon. I've just come back from Portugal, where I was just listening to you guys talking about the Costa del Sal and sunshine and all that. I've just come back from Portugal. It was absolutely beautiful, 33 degrees every day for a couple of weeks. I came into Gatwick, and we were through Gatwick in about 10 minutes. And then last night, my daughter rang and said, "Dad, turn the telly on." I said, "Oh, no, I don't watch telly in case I'm not on." And she said, "No, have a look at the news." And it was like, oh, my God, Gatwick is a hellhole.
Oh, so you just missed all of that.
I missed all of it. I came through thinking, Gatwick's very organised today, very organised. Yeah, I mean, those poor people and hours and hours and all that.
It is horrendous.
The rest of Europe or the rest of the world, I'm not sure. It's just horrendous, some of it.
Yeah, really awful, really awful. And hopefully it'll be sorted within the next 24 hours or so, they reckon. Fingers crossed. It's funny you mention your daughter, because I know Fia from when she used to live out here. She worked on radio out here. So funny.
Did, that's right. That's right. She came home and for a while she did it. I think she did it from the UK for a while. And then she does, well, obviously now she does Heart and stuff. But she's another one who loves radio. Radio, well, you know this. Radio is such good fun.
Yeah.
You know,
definitely.
The best fun.
And we have an ex-colleague in common as well, Russ Kane. Small world.
Oh, Russ Kane. God, whatever happened to him?
Do the Capital Radio days seem a lifetime ago to you?
I tell you what, I mean, socially now, although I've done lots of things, the guys, you know, the gang I keep sort of socialising with the most are the Capital lot, you know, because we were just such a close-knit gang. And, well, you know this stuff. I mean, radio, you're crammed into a studio. You actually have to like each other, particularly when you're doing, I did 17 years, I think, of early mornings. And when it's pitch black and dark in February and cold and horrible, you don't want to be there. You really do want to be with people you like, because otherwise, you know, so we had a great time, actually. And we were a gang and we got on really well, including Russ and you know, producers and whatever.
Yeah.
But, good days, radio. Well, you know this stuff.
And how early did you have to get up? Because UK breakfast shows are a lot earlier than Spanish ones, I tell you.
Yeah, that's true. Also, UK dinner is much earlier than Spanish ones as well. We also get down there about 7 and can't understand why there's no waiters ready. 5 o'clock-ish, I suppose, every morning. I was there for 6. But I mean, if you go to I don't know, I don't think it's quite happening in the UK, but certainly America. I mean, the Suits are in at 4:30 talking about the show. I mean, I never saw Suits for weeks. And, you know, I tried to avoid them. I just didn't, you know. So very, very much more laid back. And people like me and one of my most loved, kindest men, dear Wogan. I mean, Terry was never in till about 6:55 or whatever. Nor was I. Kenny Everett used to have this wonderful tape. But when he was late, we used to put the tape in for him. "Darlings, I'm not there yet. This is a recording, darlings," and all this. Very funny.
Brilliant.
He used to record a 20-minute, "I'm sorry I'm late" tape. And then when he actually was late, he had to go make another one.
That's fabulous. Amazing. He got away with it.
Yeah, well, he got away with it. Yeah, I think being Kenny, he still would, because the guy was a genius.
Yeah, brilliant. And we before the Capital Radio show came about, you obviously were big on television with Tis Was. That must seem like even longer ago.
Yeah, well, that's because it was a long time ago. That's not good. I said, oh, God, it seems like years ago. Well, actually, yes, it was. I had the best time. I mean, my life has just been... Because, you know, all this stuff about toxic studio. I never had a toxic studio in my life, you know. All this stuff about this more people be on. If I was either incredibly ignorant of that, but we just wouldn't have had it. I mean, what Tiz was, we were just a gang of, young gangling kids with me and Lenny and Sally and all of us just being silly. And we had such a nice time every Saturday morning. The ratings were huge. We got away with murder. And we did that for 7 or 8 years. Then I did things like Tarrant on TV or whatever. And, Capital came along. So that was another best part of 20 years of my life. I mean, I have been blessed. I'm not actually particularly talented. I'm just sort of larger than life. And I'm quite good at what I do, but it's not. The whole point of my book is, it's not a proper job, and it's not. You know that sitting there and you're comfy, whatever, being fanned by your workers. I've had a great time. Wogan said I just keep talking about Terry because I miss him hugely, and he was one of the kindest, funniest men I ever met. And Wogan always said to me, I never done a day's work since I left the bank in Dublin. And I know what he meant. I never had a difficult time. I used to look forward to going to work.
That's lovely. That's really great to hear. And that you did have good teams around you as well. I mean, it really did look like you all were just having a great time.
We were. We were. I don't know anybody at home was, but we were. It was the weirdest time of our lives, and we were pop stars. We were everywhere we went. We were chased up the road, and I remember going to do an opening of some sort of store extension in Stoke-on-Trent with me, Sally James and Lenny, and they were just queuing around the block for this shop, and the manager came out really fed up because they'd stolen about 10 lawnmowers. And I went, well, it's not my fault. There's just so many people there, so little security, and just all these kids storming this shop. It's weird now thinking about how chaotic it all was. People threw water over us wherever we went, which is part of the bucket of water song and all that. And I remember we were in quite a posh restaurant in Brighton one sort of midweek night. We'd been doing something together. And me and Sally and Lenny and John Gorman and Spit the dog, we sat around having a meal. And this terribly nice woman came up and said, "Oh, I hope you don't mind, do you?" And poured the bucket of ice water over Sally's head. And we went, "Of course we mind. What are you doing?" He said, "Well, that's what you do, isn't it?" I said, "No, that's what we do on Saturdays. It's now Tuesday, and we're having a night off."
Oh, God, it's unbelievable. Poor Sally. Oh, dear. And I read about how you got into TV. You were really wanted to work in TV. That was your ambition. And you sent lots of letters to TV companies and managed to get in that way.
Yeah, I wrote this ridiculous. My dad thought I'd gone mad. I wrote this ridiculous letter to every television company in Britain. Now, it's nothing like the amount of terrestrial stuff now and Sky and all that, but there's still a lot of stations and all the smaller BBC ones. And don't forget, in those days, it was longhand, and it was a very brash letter, and it included the phrase which has come back to haunt me: "I am the face of the 70s. This is your chance to snap me up." It's like, oh, God, did I really write that?
Oh,
and most
brilliant.
of them put it in the waste bin. Thank you, whoever you were, goodbye. But ATV Birmingham and Yorkshire Television up in Leeds, they both invited me for an interview. I think just to see what sort of a weirdo wrote this letter. But somehow it sort of worked because they both offered me a job. Now, this was October. I'm trying to think of my dates. We're going back to before the First World War. This was October 1971. But I was living down in Dorset, very close to the Dorset Stour, which is one of the best fishing rivers in England. And all I really wanted to do was go fishing every afternoon, which is what I did for months. And I kept saying to him, I'm really looking forward to joining the company and da-da-da. But I'm in the middle of this screenplay, and until I finished it, I can't come and all that. I mean, there was no screenplay. It's complete nonsense. The screenplay was going fishing. And
brilliant.
Going on for ages. And then, I can't believe now that, because really and truly what eventually happened when I did get there, it changed my life, it changed my fortune, it changed my kids' lives, it, changed everything. But I just kept putting it off. And it got to the point in about the January where they're going, look, do you want this job? Well, oh, yes, I do. I've nearly finished the screenplay and all that. But it's always amused me. Most people don't know this. Most of my fishing mates know this. But the river season closes on March the 14th. And if you see my first ever contract with a television company, which is ATV in Birmingham, I started on March the 15th, 1972. And I was so long with this screenplay. I mean, it was nonsense.
Oh, how funny. And
They
didn't want to hear about the screenplay then afterwards. They didn't say, so what is this screenplay?
I couldn't believe. I mean, I was so, considering how sort of successful I became, I was so unambitious and laid back, you know. I think it's quite nice, actually, but whatever.
Oh, definitely. Well, we have to talk about Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. That was, it was groundbreaking, and it went on to have series in over 100 other countries, which is incredible. Amazing. It did so well.
Well, it's still clonking on in many countries, places like Australia, India. I think Canada's still got a version. It went to number one in every single territory. It went to 121 countries, I think. And it went to number one in every single country it ever went to, because it was just nothing. I mean, nowadays it's quite sort of, Millionaire. Everybody's seen that whole thing, sort of 20 years ago. At the time, nobody had ever seen anything quite like it. And it just stormed the charts. Somebody sent me a copy of Broadcast Magazine, which is a sort of television ratings monthly magazine you get. And 1 month after we've been on air for about 7 or 8 months, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was, of that particular month, that year, 19 of the top 20 places of ratings were Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And one was news. And you think, God. It seems so sort of part of, normal life now, but all that stuff with the catchphrases and all, because it's such a brilliant, simple format. I mean, that's the key to it. Yeah. And the whole thing of having the answers, 15 questions or 12 or whatever, the answer is always there on the screen for each question, with 3 other alternatives. Now, that sounds obvious, but nobody ever did that. So when you did sort of gambling shows or, Double Your Money or whatever, you just said, oh, no, I feel lucky. I'll go on for another question. Like Millionaire, it's there every single time. And that sounds so obvious now, but nobody had ever done anything like that. Mm. And I think that was a real key ingredient, and the music and the lighting and all that, that scary and all that stuff. We changed the lighting and the music. We did a pilot. And it was quite sort of sunny and smiley and winning £1 million and having a nice time and all that. I think Pete Waterman wrote a very nice sort of song like that. And we dumped that and we got that, which is too overnight, which you now hear everywhere Millionaire plays all over the world. Yeah. And it just, and the whole thing of having people in that huge close-up, because you didn't do that. Game shows were always sort of wide and light and bright and whatever. And this sort of, this torture chamber thing, if you like, was like, okay, what do you think? There's the question. There's your answers. Are you going to play? And it's so simple, actually, because after you've done one show, you know exactly how it all works, how the lifelines go, etc. Everybody understood it straight away. And it was huge. Yeah.
The fact that people could play along at home, I think, made a huge difference as well, didn't it? So everyone was into it. And if somebody made a guess and you're thinking, no, I think that's wrong. I mean, the family really got involved and got invested in these contestants. It was great.
David Briggs, my producer at Capital and my producer on Millionaire, who's one of my closest friends. I mean, they all say he and I are joined at the hip. He also said, I want shoutability. I want people outside screaming, initially at their radio, oh, for God's sake, then screaming at the television, no, don't go for B, it's C, you idiot. Mum used to tell me, my dad is terrible. She said, your father's used language I've never heard before in all our years of marriage. She said, thicko, what's the matter with the idiot and all this? But it was happening all over the UK, and subsequently all over the world. It was an extraordinary show. I had a nice time. It was a very nice time.
Do you miss it?
No, not at all. Not at all. No, we did 15 years, and I think we all agreed it's time to have a good old breather and come off and all that. No, I don't miss it at all, actually. I just had the best of it at the very best time. The whole thing when it went through the roof everywhere. And we initially thought we might get 3 or 4 years out of this. You had no idea about the overseas sales, because shows in those days didn't sell. You never sold anything to America. You never sold a game show to America.
No, it was a big deal.
I I had the best time doing it. I loved it. But by the end, when we stopped, it was kind of, we haven't got anywhere else to go with it, really. Because ITV particularly they always wanted, more and more personalities, celebrity shows. And we sort of milked the celebrities. There was nobody left we wanted to come on, to be honest. But the guest list for Millionaire for me was like, Alex Ferguson, George Michael, Paul McCartney, so many people who would never, ever go on a game show. Yeah. But it was just a huge accolade to be on it, And it was fun for me. It was like meeting some of my heroes, That was wonderful.
And when I was able to put the question to you before, when I was interviewing Tony, I asked you what your kind of most memorable moments were of the show. And of course, one of the moments that you mentioned was Charles Ingram, which I think a lot of people will associate with the show.
Yeah. Incredible. I mean, and that whole thing of the quiz program last year that, with Michael Sheen and co. I mean, I'm just telling you now that I've sat through so many hundreds of hours of tape sitting there with the fraud squad, and he is so guilty. There is no question. There is no doubt. He's as guilty as Guy Fawkes. But it was just the most extraordinary night's television. I mean, for me, it was the most amazing program I've ever done, because people were screaming because he was so odd. I mean, he virtually went out after about 3 or 4 questions. Somehow he's going, I don't know, but oh God, I'm still going to play, and come on, and all this. And I'm just sitting there going, what are you doing? You've got to lose. You must lose money. You keep going. No, come on. He kept shouting, crash and burn. Come on, crash and burn, and all this. I'm complete nonsense. I tell you a weird thing. When you get to that £500,000 mark, and you say to these people, I suppose I did it for me when I was doing it about 12 or 13 times. You say, okay, you've got £500,000. The next question is for £1 million. If you go for it, and I hope you do, and if you get it right, you win £1 million. If you get it wrong, you have just lost £450,000 or whatever it was. You've just lost £500,000. And everybody I said that to, of all the ones who went to look at £1 million question, you see them go, oh my God, because in their brain they've got 500,000, but actually you haven't. So if you get this wrong, you've lost £500,000 on behalf of yourself, your family, your charity, whatever. And the only one, this is very much with hindsight, a couple of years later, the only one who said, yes, okay, fine, let's play, rather than going, oh, hang on, oh, God, this is a bit serious, and sort of, big lump in their throat, was the Major. Because the Major knew he'd play, he knew he'd get it right, and he knew he was about to win £1 million.
Yeah. Oh, it was so, it was the best television. Everyone was talking about it, weren't they?
God, it's 20 years or something.
Amazing.
And they're still saying, like, oh, the Ingrams are considering an appeal. Yeah, right. Oh,
yeah, good luck.
Like 21 years later, I think you have to have new evidence, and probably half the people involved are dead.
Yeah, bit late. And I just wanted to ask you quickly about your charity work, because you were received an OBE in 2004. You've done some amazing charity work for lots of great causes.
I just think you should, I've had a very, very nice life, a very happy life, a very, a very lucrative life. And I just think you should give back. If you can just turn up somewhere and attract a large crowd to come to a charity and hopefully open up their checkbooks or whatever, I think it's great. I don't want to do charity all the time, but I'm still paid. Most of mine is to do with, in fact, all of mine now are to do with kids with handicaps, because, I don't know, because I've got a whole army of my own kids who drive me completely mad, but I love them all to pieces, and grandkids. And they're all very happy and healthy and whatever. And it's not their fault that they haven't got some sort of disability or whatever, but I just think you've no idea, you guys, how lucky you are. It's all there, but for the grace of God, go I. So no, I think it's something, to me, it's something obvious that I should do. Yeah. And actually now I'm doing this work, I'm doing more of it, and I love it. I enjoy all that. It's nice to be able to do it.
Yeah.
I think you should give.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, if people want to read your memoir, It's Not a Proper Job, it's available on our website, tre.radio, and it's by the lovely Chris Tarrant, who we've been chatting with today. Chris, thank you so much for joining us on Talk Radio Europe.
Thanks, Hannah. Really, really nice to chat to you. Cheers, darling. Be lucky. Take care.
Bye-bye.